Welcome to this explainer. Let's just dive right in, shall we? Today, we're unpacking a really intimate, almost confessional journey drawn straight from our source material. We are going to explore the hidden psychological and physical tolls of aging alone. We hear all the time about the logistical challenges of getting older, but we rarely talk about the emotional armor of pride. It's an armor that so many people spend decades building up, only to find it slowly suffocating them in their later years. Well, we are going to strip that armor away today. There is a kind of silence that settles inside your bones. Wow, just think about that for a second. It's a visceral quote, right? And it reveals a really hard truth. This isn't just about sitting in a quiet room. It's a physical sensation. To understand this deeply, we're going to explore the experiences of a woman who discovered firsthand that the silence of living alone isn't just a backdrop to your life. It's something you have to actively shape, manage, and confront if you want to avoid entirely losing yourself inside of it. So, let's meet Alice. According to our source narrative, Alice is 85 years old and she's been widowed for about 12 years now since her husband passed away. Alice is the classic caregiver. She spent her entire life stepping up to the plate as a daughter, a wife, a mother. She was the one who healed people, the one who fixed things, the one literally everyone relied on. And she wore her hyper-independence like a badge of honor. People even praised her for it, telling her how strong she was when her husband died. But that praise, it actually set a trap. Alice ended up facing 3 critical yet completely harmless-seeming errors that almost cost her peace, health, and safety. All right, let's look at error 1, the illusion of the solitary fortress. So many of us falsely learn that asking for help means losing our dignity. It's this belief that strength equals managing everything single-handedly and never, ever being an inconvenience to anyone else. Take Alice, for example. One winter, she came down with a really severe flu. It wasn't life-threatening, but it literally drained every single drop of her energy. Getting out of bed felt like moving a mountain. But here's the heartbreaking part. She chose to suffer in her dark bedroom. She didn't call her daughter. She didn't call a neighbor. She simply told herself, lying there in the silence, that she could figure it out, entirely out of a stubborn desire not to be a burden. Then, on just a random afternoon, she tries to get up to grab a simple glass of water. And she can't. She literally collapses onto the cold floor. Not because she tripped or got injured, but because her body physically had zero strength left. And sitting there on the floor, she had this painfully clear realization. She wasn't being strong at all. She was just being incredibly stubborn. So what does this all mean for us? How do we redefine resilience? Well, true wisdom is realizing you absolutely do not have to do everything alone. It means denying yourself that unnecessary suffering you're enduring in silence. It's about finally accepting the love and care that you've spent your entire life generously giving to other people. When you say, "I'm fine," and you clearly aren't, you're not protecting your dignity, You are actually just punishing yourself. Moving right along to era 2, the physical risk of not bothering anyone. This kind of emotional pride, it physically endangers people, especially when you still think you've got the agility of a 40-year-old. It's that bad habit of ignoring everyday dangers inside your own home simply because you refuse to bother anyone else. Picture this scene from our source material. A light bulb burns out in Alice's hallway. In the past, her husband would have fixed it in 2 minutes. Now, telling herself, "Hey, I can handle this," Alice drags this heavy wooden chair under the fixture. She climbs up slowly, hands shaking a bit, and then, for one heart-stopping second, she actually loses her balance. Now, she didn't fall, but standing there in the dim light, clutching the wall, her heart just pounding out of her chest, that was a terrifying reality check. Because a fall when you live alone isn't just a fall. It's a terrible uncertainty. It means time. It means waiting. It's the sudden, scary realization of what a single slip could actually mean when there is absolutely no one around to hear you call out for help. As a society, we absolutely love to applaud 91-year-olds who do all their own chores, driving and cleaning entirely by themselves. We treat it like a total marvel. But our source makes a vital argument here. Doing absolutely everything by yourself is not proof of your worth. A small trap at the wrong moment can quickly become a disaster. Exhaustion is not a trophy to be won, guys. After the light bulb incident, Alice actually started asking for help. Not because she became weak, but because she finally got honest with herself about her physical limits. Which brings us to error 3, the silently shrinking world. Okay, this one is fascinating. Isolation doesn't crash in like a violent storm. Instead, it creeps in like a soft, silent blanket until you don't even realize you're trapped underneath it. It totally deceives you through these tiny, harmless-sounding excuses. Alice didn't isolate herself on purpose. It just started with, "Well, not today. I'm kind of tired." Then I'll go out and see the neighbors next week. And because nothing bad happened when she stayed in, she just kept repeating the excuse. Next thing you know, it's day 5. She hasn't stepped foot outside, and terrifyingly, this shrinking world feels completely normal to her. And this daily isolation just slowly chips away at your basic desire for self-care. Alice actually found herself letting fresh food spoil in the fridge. Why? Because that little voice in her head kept whispering, "Why make a whole meal just for me?" She had silently convinced herself that without an audience, without a family to feed, she simply wasn't worth the effort of cooking a hot meal. But it's not all bleak. Let's look at the resolution, the dawn of wisdom and true strength. This is the major turning point in the narrative. It's this dawn of wisdom where that dim, melancholic isolation actually transforms into a really warm, intentional peace. We obviously can't control aging or the loss of our loved ones, but we absolutely can control how we react to the silence. Alice teaches us a profound lesson here. True loneliness isn't just lacking company. It's feeling disconnected, unheard, invisible. You can literally be lonely in a crowded room. But on the flip side, you can be physically alone without feeling lonely, as long as you take deliberate actions to stay connected to yourself and the world. So to fight back against this shrinking world, Alice decided to get fiercely intentional. She learned to accept help without the guilt trip. She started calling her daughter just to have a real conversation, not because she desperately needed something. She realized that if you spend all your time looking at photographs of a past life, you totally miss the moments life is handing you right now. And most importantly, she chose to care for herself even when nobody else was watching. And this brings us to the emotional climax of her journey. And it's beautifully simple. It's the dignified act of setting the table. Even if she's eating entirely alone, she places the plate, she places the glass, she pulls out the chair, and she sits down to a real meal. Why? Because there's something so deeply humanizing in these small rituals. She sets the table to acknowledge a fundamental truth. She still deeply matters. This right here, this is the ultimate redefinition of strength that we've been building toward. When you live alone for a long time, if you're intentional about it, the silence stops being terrifying and actually becomes this profound peace. You're not performing for anyone anymore. Real strength isn't about silently enduring suffering. It's about taking the weight of the world off your shoulders and finding quiet dignity and genuine connection, just sitting alone in a quiet room. So I want to leave you with something to really think about. Take a breath, take that weight off your shoulders right now, look at your space, and ask yourself this. Are you wearing extreme independence as a heavy, exhausting armor? Or are you actively, intentionally setting the table for your own peace? Make sure you're truly living, guys, and not just surviving in the silence. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.